The views expressed in this review are my own. I encourage everyone to pick up a copy and read it for themselves. What I like, others may not, and vice versa. If you would like to read, review, or critique my own work, I will leave a link in the description. I welcome all feedback. This will start my 4th year of reviewing books. A lot has changed, but that's not why you're here. Let's start off 2024 with something fun and get into some irreverent comedy from our old friend Terry Pratchett. And yes, I do hope to review 2 of his books today because I needed something to forget some of the stuff I read last year. Today we're reviewing Equal Rites, the 3rd book in the Discworld series. I'm not sure how many books are in this series, and I don't intend to look it up. I intend to let it be an either pleasant or unpleasant surprise. So let's get right into the story, then my likes, dislikes, and thoughts. A wizard has appeared outside a small village with a name that's not YouTube friendly, but is a synonym for a disobedient donkey. He comes upon a blacksmith who immediately IDs him as a wizard. This was pretty easy because it's raining on everything but him. The wizard has come because he's dying and is looking to pass on his power. As it turns out, the blacksmith is an 8th son and is expecting his own 8th son that night. 8 being the most magical number on the Discworld. The smith is excited at the prospect of a wizard in the family and leads him to his freshly born child. The local witch is there. In this world, they serve as a kind of midwife. The witch is immediately suspicious of this newcomer. The smith tells her he knows what he's doing, helps his new child grab the wizard's staff, and the wizard immediately dies, leaving all his power to the child. The witch, who is named Granny Weatherwax, is upset. But the smith is very proud of what he's done. Until the witch pulls back the baby's swaddling clothes and reveals the child is not a boy, but a girl. The smith is shocked, but seems to take it all in stride. Granny Weatherwax is not taking it all in stride and tells him to get rid of the staff, that this is wrong and that the magic won't set right, that only boys are supposed to be wizards and only girls are supposed to be witches. She cajoles the smith into attempting to destroy the staff, something that both he and later she fail at with gusto. The two decide it's best to hide the staff and never tell the girl what she is for the rest of her life. And this is where we'll leave off with the story. So let's get into my likes. I've made no secret that I like Pratchett's work. With the first 2 books, the comedy came from a combination of sarcasm, surrealism, and slapstick. This book's comedy is a bit drier and a bit slower. While I don't like it as much, it still makes an enjoyable read. Escarina, the wizard daughter of the smith, is more of a fish out of water than anything else. She understands things she's not supposed to, she can't figure out why she understands them, and is caught between 2 worlds that weren't supposed to collide. I was worried this was going to be a modernity story, and that's despite the age of the book. But it's not handled like that. Mostly. When it becomes apparent that Escarina's powers can't be suppressed or hidden, Granny Weatherwax tries to train her to be a witch, something Escarina takes to far too quickly. She surpasses her teacher and then does something that puts her in real danger. It gets to the point that even the old witch can't handle her and decides it's best to send her to Unseen University to be trained as a wizard. There is a fantastic B-plot about the dead wizard from the beginning of the book, as he decides to go through reincarnation. We meet him later as a tree and again as an ant. I believe he appears one more time, but I can't quite place it. There are some problems with linear time here, but it's a comedy so it can be forgiven. I also believe Pratchett might have been making some jabs at the early onset of modernity. There's a subtle dig at academia in the "no one understands it, but it was no doubt very impressive" lines used to describe the magics that Escarina and her male associate go on to create at the end of the book. If you've been through college, you're probably familiar with the "it's complex and wordy and therefore correct" rationale. This could have been Pratchett playing up the character's intelligence, or downplaying the other character's intelligence, or just mocking academia in general. I'm not completely certain, but it was enjoyable nonetheless, and I prefer to laugh at what doesn't quite hit rather than cringe at it. So let's get into my dislikes. I feel there was a lost opportunity with the staff. It felt like it was meant to be a replacement for the luggage from the previous 2 books. While the staff certainly has its moments, and I did laugh at many of the odd scenes with it, it felt like it was filling shoes that were far too big for it. The luggage in the first 2 books was a running gag about a monstrous wooden chest made of sapient pear wood. It bulldozed its way across the land in pursuit of its master, destroying, maiming, and eating people along the way. It was a powerhouse of chaos and arguably one of the funnier things about the first 2 books. The staff, on the other hand, felt haughty and barely alive. It certainly has a presence, but it feels like comparing a single witty retort to an all-out slapstick routine complete with fireworks. I will say again, it has moments where it's truly funny, but it's the comparison that hurts it. Maybe it's unfair to list that here, but there you are. Next, some of the character interactions in the later book were dull. The conversations were a bit too long and went to irrelevant places. It still felt like it belonged in the world, but it was a drastic change of pace and I found my interest quickly waning. And lastly, and probably my biggest complaint, the main thread of the book didn't feel earned. A small spoiler here. The big bads of the book are the beings of the dungeon dimension. They are shapeless, careless things that live outside of the universe and want nothing more than to get in and wreck up the place. Even though they're foreshadowed throughout the book, they still feel like they come out of nowhere. Then they're dealt with in a way that reminded me of the original Evangelion ending, just not quite as bad. And then the book is done. It feels like we're denied something truly horrible. Some villains that could have been a lot of fun. I'd feel just as disappointed if Star Wars ended with Darth Vader being won over by the power of friendship and the Empire dissolved so that he and Palpatine could go run a soup kitchen. Don't get me wrong, it was still better than the "we beat the stodgy old patriarchy" ending we would have gotten today. Maybe it's just a mismatch in protagonists versus villains. So let's get on to my thoughts. So far I really like the Discworld series, but this is definitely the weakest entry so far. It's like when you're a kid and your favorite show would do a special episode on how bad Hate was. Even when well written, they still feel out of place. That being said, I don't think Pratchett was trying to push the message. This feels like he was inspired by a recent event and had an idea for a story. Then he got about halfway through before his usual oddness came out, and the end result was very mismatched. This is still Pratchett, and it's still worth a read. I laughed and enjoyed a lot of the wit and quips in the book. But it's a bit insubstantial. I went through the book 3 times looking for more to talk about, but it's just not there. It's like a half a slice of pizza or getting off work 2 hours early. It's fun, you're happy about it, but ultimately it amounts to nothing. However, there's a lot to be said for enjoyable nothings. Good luck, everyone.